Good evening and welcome to the Budget Finance Committee for January 23rd, 2018. Tonight is technically a workshop meeting. The only votes we will have will be to review the 2 minutes that we passed on last time. So I would like a motion first to review the April 18th, 2017 minutes.
Make a motion to approve as amended?
Yes.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
I'd like to recuse because I wasn't here April 18th.
Thank you. Thank you, Dana. Okay. And now the minutes for our last meeting, which was November 9th, 2017, as they have not been amended to the best of my knowledge. Motion, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of November 9th.
Second.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Barry. All in favor? Okay. I've asked Kathy Ricker to be here just in case we have some questions that I can't answer. The first item on the agenda for me would be to review the auditor's report. This is the year-end auditor's report. And I forget, is it Smith and Associates still, or Smith and Associates report that came out? And I'll preface this by saying that, again, it's an unqualified opinion, which means that there is nothing in the notes or in the financials that would cause any alarms or anything like that. So, do we have any questions on those reports? Everybody's at least had access to them. No questions? Okay, moving right along. Review of the fiscal year end, I call it the general ledger dump. It's when you take everything in the general ledger and put it in a bucket. Okay, so now it's the general ledger, which is technically the fiscal year end, June 30th, 2017 report. And the reason I wanted to go over this one is because it's formatted differently from years past. And it's very nice the way it's done. Blue is a positive and red is a negative in these numbers, so it makes the variances easier to pick up. So, do we have any questions on those reports as an overall comment?
Budget this year is going to be more in this format.
Yes.
Also.
Thank you, yes. But I think that in general, the numbers came in pretty close to where we thought they would be. I saw nothing in the reports that would say that we have to make an adjustment in the budget coming up. Okay. Are there any questions on those reports? And I'm not totally comfortable that everybody fully understands these reports as they're coming out. So now's the time to ask questions, okay? And I'm familiar with general ledger systems, and Brian, I think you are. I'm sure you are.
This is the same system we used in Madison. So
Perfect. Okay, perfect. Okay. We all set with 12/31, or fiscal year end, 6/30/17? Okay.
Mr. Chair, I was just going
Yes,
to
sir.
make a comment that I think the value of this is, obviously, is that the town will be utilizing it as they set budget for
Right.
upcoming year in terms of where allocations and reallocations had to happen. But overall, I thought that the allocations of monies were fairly solid, and it, obviously becomes a guidepost for
big variances.
Yeah.
Okay, going on to December 31st, 2017 general ledger reports. Now, in my opinion, there's a couple pieces of low-hanging fruit on this one, and I wonder if anybody else picked it up. Mr. Walker?
So I have about 6 points that I thought might be helpful in terms of things that I would be looking for as the town comes with a budget. And Sue, I'll give you my notes afterwards if that's okay.
Sure.
So you don't have to do too much. If they're worth it, I don't know.
I can get it from the tape.
Okay, there you go. The first one is on general revenue. As the town comes to present to us, I'd like to get a projection of where they think year-end surplus or deficit might be. It seems to me that we're running some fairly healthy surpluses right now, but it'd be interesting to get their perspective on where they think things are going to be. I'd also like to see projections of where they think year-end surplus or deficit might be for two accounts. That's 4,000, which is the employee benefits, and 4,100, which is insurance. I think those are predictable, and so I think it would be helpful for us to kind of get a sense of where they think those are going to end up for 17-18.
You're looking for these answers to come forward in the budget
As
presentations?
part of the budget process. So
okay.
rather than my writing all this stuff,
Not
I was
tonight.
thinking that this might be helpful for Don and team
Okay,
to
I
just
wonder,
keep in
I wonder
mind.
if I could back you up a little bit.
Sure.
And I'll let you continue, but I'm
Yeah.
looking for comments on the December 31st report. Any negatives, any positives
That's fair.
on that
Okay.
report?
I took all of this from having looked at those two
Okay.
reports, which is why I was doing it now, but I'm happy to hold on.
Here's one piece of low-hanging fruit that I thought somebody might pick up
Yeah.
on,
844%.
which is what? Did I raise?
Current, well, no. Unfortunately, I don't have the paper. I wrote
Okay.
notes down, so I.
There was a $77,500 overage in miscellaneous income.
Yeah, I did see
That's
that.
very unusual to see that, and I thought
Yeah.
sure somebody would pick up
Yeah.
and say, hey,
Yeah.
what's this all about?
I didn't get that one.
Income,
Yeah.
income, okay. And that was the sale of the land to the CMP?
Easement to the Central Maine Power
Right.
utility sale. And there's still money to come. We have, I think, about $6,500 still to come on the appraisal
Okay.
on that. So in the end, we're going to be looking at about $85,000.
Okay. And that is the last piece for Patricia Avenue? Everything's done after that, or is there more to go after?
That's the last on this particular easement, but
Okay.
we still have a significant piece of property up there.
Yep. Okay.
This runs along the boundary of that, so it doesn't compromise the property, and supposedly it's going to give us some level of redundancy in our power grid, so it's going to help us that way. There will also be a substation built as a part of the project, which will be taxable
Right.
revenue. So
And
it's a-
that, Brian, would be non-recurring, so that's why I brought it up there.
Right,
so,
right.
yeah. The other one is there is a $5,000 blue entry for parking fees in the income section. I have no idea what that is.
A what?
Parking?
Payment in lieu of taxes? No.
The only,
No, payment in lieu of taxes. It's not parking.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that. I did see that
Parking
payment in lieu
is,
of taxes. What was that?
that's pilot, that's not.
Yeah, I had payment in lieu of taxes.
So that's nonprofits.
I had a hard time downloading that too, and
Yeah.
I'd like to have a paper copy if I could.
Yeah.
you know?
Parking tickets was $320.
I took notes, and,
Yeah,
but I
it's,
don't have.
yeah, it's hard to do when you don't have the paper.
So basically, a payment in lieu of taxes is a payment made by a nonprofit entity that's not required under law to pay taxes,
Yeah.
but does. So Jordan Bay Place.
Okay.
What's
There's- There's
So
one,
it's a contribution, voluntary contribution.
But is it in lieu of taxes?
They're not
Is it-
required to because they're a
No,
not-for-profit.
They're not required to pay taxes. They're a qualified nonprofit. But I think in this instance, because they
That's great.
demand so many public safety services,
They feel
they
guilty.
they do it as a goodwill thing.
Okay.
It's not uncommon. It's not uncommon.
I'm sorry.
A little bit uncommon for Raymond because we don't have a lot of, significant nonprofits. But in towns that do, it's a common thing.
Now, what's Jordan Bay Place?
It's the
Levy
senior.
Lane, the
Levy Lane.
senior-
Okay.
Yeah,
Levy, okay.
yeah. Most people know it that way.
Yeah.
that was the only one I saw, and Brian.
I did have one which is about the sign donations. There's $12,000 in the budget for it. If I remember correctly, the Fire Department Foundation was going to contribute to that, and that was their fundraising for last year, because I remember getting the fundraising request in January of last year, I think. So I was just wondering when that was
I
being
just billed
paid.
it,
Okay,
so
Okay,
I
great.
would expect that it would be in this month sometime.
fantastic. As long as we're there, one other one. On snowmobile reimbursement, I was surprised to see that there wasn't any revenue yet as of December 31st.
It came in January too.
Oh, okay. Okay,
It's all about timing, Brian, sometimes.
right.
The only other one that I wanted to comment on tonight was the general government town hall contract, which was, it's already $2,000 over budget.
Yeah, so,
And I believe that was an omission in the budget process last year, is
Our
that
cleaning
correct?
service
Yeah.
is in that line, and it's been, actually in the past, it's sort of been in Public Works, but I wanted to get it where it belonged.
Okay,
So the negative is gonna remind us to actually budget for it.
that's, the reason I wanted to pick on that one is because it shows in red, so it's easy enough to pick up.
Well, we're on the town office,
Right.
just so folks are aware, we had some significant storm damage as a consequence of the October storms.
Right.
So there's a significant, or will be, revenues from insurance. There may well be a FEMA claim, so there'll be some activity around the town office.
Okay,
You may have noticed the tower's gone,
I did.
so we're going to move the tower, I hope, to the school, partner with the school.
Okay, Brian? Yep.
There was one also, as long as we're going into a few of the details, might as well get some answers.
Yep.
On the account 6,000 fire department, we haven't paid any money to dispatch services yet. It's budgeted for $33,741. I was just curious, I would assume that would be the one that would have kind of multiple regular payments. Did we
Which
make a
one?
decision?
Which one are you looking at? I'm sorry.
Fire department, it's sub-account 3105.
Okay.
Sorry. I was just I was surprised to not see any money, and I was just wondering if we had made a decision, if there had been a change in how we're doing dispatch.
I think we only pay them once a year.
Once a year?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
I think so.
Oh, and that does bring me to one other one. When we pay the Cumberland County our $726,000, do we do that? We did it as a lump sum. Which is different than our own, the way the town gathers money, which is twice a year. Are we required by law to do it as a single payment at the beginning of the year?
Well, actually, the county is on a calendar year,
Oh.
so we're actually paying them, I believe it's due, I want to say September 30th, and then you get a month leeway, so we always paid it right at the end of October. And so basically, they're going 10 months without any revenue.
Okay. So
So
it's a time, I was thinking the same, what you guys are already doing, which is maximizing the money in our account so we can get that high interest rate that everybody's providing right now, so.
Yeah.
It's a good thing.
I'm sure there are towns that pay it the minute it's assessed, but we have not done that.
Well, that's, on $726,000, even at low interest, you can make a few bucks, so.
That's our way of protesting, Brian.
I'm all for it.
Okay, anything else on these reports? Those are the only two I wanted to pick up on. Anything else? Okay, Brian, I'll let you get back to your list.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Just and part of these, the reason why I was doing them as part of that was that they were spurred from the two accounts. One is on the technology budget, which is account 5500. This has been an account where there's been a lot of changes to the sub-accounts over the last few years. And for the Budget Finance Committee, and I would think even the Select Board, sometimes that makes it more difficult for us to track year-to-year changes. So I'm hoping that we are close to being dialed in, if not fully dialed in, on those sub-accounts, and to try to keep those as consistent as possible so that we can do easier year-to-year comparisons. This one goes to the contract question that you brought up, or that was brought up, Kathy, in your response, but we're showing some large overages in contract fees and services in both Public Works and Town Hall. And I would just like to learn a little bit more about whether this is like an opportunistic utilization of outside providers or a shift in the way that we're spending monies and strategies. And I wanted to just say that I'm going to be looking to find out what the contractors are doing and the names of the contractors that we're using, just so I can have a full disclosure on that.
Yep.
Two more. I'm hoping that all non-governmental organizations that are receiving funds from the town will continue to provide the clarity on the value that they bring to town residents, number one, and sufficient financials to provide context to the town to support our understanding of their budget and how we fit into what they do. So if you can just convey that to the various groups. We have amazing people doing wonderful work. I just want to make sure that we really do understand how they see the value to the town residents and therefore why the town should be supporting them. And also enough of a financial background so we can see how the contributions that are made by the town fit into their overall budget.
Do you have some examples on that, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, the ones that I had written down was the Hawthorne House, the library, the Vitalization Committee, RWPA, Raymond Rec, Rattlers, any of the groups that I would say that are non-governmental entities that are getting support. you know, as Don often says, the Raymond Way. We do use this kind of public-private partnership, which I think is fantastic, and makes our dollars go a lot longer, but it's just to make sure that we're getting consistent information.
Okay. That's fine.
Oh, and good news for everybody. That was the last one, because the other one was about the county tax. So I'm done.
No,
Thank you.
we can't not pay that, Brian. Okay, anything else on the numbers? Kathy, you can hit the road if you want. Thank you very much for coming.
Thanks, Kathy.
Yeah.
Drive safely.
Yeah.
that's right.
I don't know if Kathy's, just a general question.
Go.
About, there's a lot of us that went ahead and prepaid the tax.
Yep.
And so our deal is, I mean, we had the bill ahead of time, it looked like it's fine, but at the current time, the town's not considering any refunds at all, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that's good.
We wouldn't really have anybody request them either.
Well, I wouldn't think so unless they found out that, oh, wait just a minute, I might not be able to claim this somewhere.
This
We
is-
had about
this is-
$500,000 people do,
Oh,
$500,000 in that.
Yeah, I can see that, it's like, wait just a minute.
Yeah, we have no plan to issue refunds.
Right, good. I knew that was what you were
That's why
saying.
I think we prefaced all the inquiries on that subject with, please use your best judgment,
Yes, you
contact your
did.
own tax
Yep, I read
accountant.
that, right.
You know, we don't have any provision for a refund.
Right, but you did take a check just like that.
We do have an authorization.
That's our
for
job,
pre-
Brian.
We actually do have an authorization to accept prepayment, yeah. So we did that, right?
Okay, thank you.
But we don't have one to give you your money back.
Okay,
Nice try.
yeah.
Try.
You could, I mean, you could recommend an article that way, but.
Oh, yeah, oh, that's okay.
See ya.
Okay, next is the ordinance change. And I hope that we all have copies of that, either in hand or on the computer.
I don't have
This is mine, so.
You have it, I saw it.
to. No.
Okay.
This one? All right, anyway.
I don't want to go into too much detail unless you ask, but in essence, the Budget Finance Committee was created in 1980. And it was authorized by the town. It had at that point in time a charge and an ordinance. And in 1995 was the last, and I believe only, revision to the ordinance. Okay, and the ordinance is how we are going to legally operate in this committee. Okay. In January of 2017, I had it on the agenda for this committee to go over ordinance change. So we've been rolling it around in our head, either officially or unofficially, for almost 14 months or 13 months. Last fall, you and I coordinated, came up with some technical terms, and made a preliminary revision, which we sent out to you folks. I had one person come back to me with a couple of comments, and then what I did is on January 4th, I sent you out a copy of the revised ordinance change and mentioned that I was going to take that to the selectmen on the 9th of January for discussion, not for a vote. The reason for that is if we are going to entertain changes, then I need to keep the ball rolling. And this is a time limit on the back end I'm trying to meet, and that is the April publishing cutoff, okay? For us to put this ordinance changes into effect, we need to address them within the next 30 days so that the selectmen can address them in the month of March, and then it can go to public hearing, and then it will be, if approved, go to the April printing for the town report in June. That's the steps, okay? So I don't want anybody to think that I shortcutted by going to the selectmen first. I sent you all a copy first, told you I was going to do that, and then I did it. And again, that was the reason for that. As far as I know, I'll go through the changes quickly, but I think there's only one bone of contention on this, okay? The first one is the elimination of the chair of the school board. Brian, you were here, Dana, you were here playing with that. Bob, I think you were too, when the school board presented their budget to us. The school had the right to have their school chairman sit ex officio on this committee as an advisor, so to speak. He never did that, as far as I know. I never saw Sandy in here at all. He never did that, but that door was always open to him, okay? Since we no longer do the school budget, and that was 2008 when we got rid of the school budget, then there's no reason to have him on there, okay? We also would like to add the provision of electing a vice chairman. We've done that for the last 5 years. I know that other committees in town do that. This is an attempt to realign our processes with other committees in town. The other one is dropping the membership from 9 to 7. We currently have 9 seats. 1 is vacant. My thinking on that is to drop it to 7. We don't need those extra 2 people because we no longer review the school system. As I said to the selectmen, my training is board members are supposed to be fingers of the community. We don't need our fingers in the school system anymore. So my recommendation is to close those 2 seats. If everybody here wishes to run for re-election, then fine, everybody here has a seat. Once somebody decides not to do that, and attrition takes over and we get down to 7, then we will be at 7 seats. It could be this election coming up, it could be 3 years, 4 years from now. Okay? So I'm not suggesting anybody drop out, I'm suggesting that if you wish to run, please run. If you choose not to run, then attrition will set in and we'll go down to 7. Okay? We need to address the gender language in the document. We need to get rid of the word man, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, we need to do that. And then we need to add language, I think, that addresses compliance with code of conduct and conflicts of interest, which I think is the other ordinances in town will be doing that shortly. And then the last one is the ability of the select board to fill a vacancy by appointment until the next election. Now, that's how I got on this board. In 2006, I was appointed to come on. The selectmen said, we need somebody out. There was an ad in the paper. I answered an ad in the paper because I was thinking about retirement. I needed a hobby. I applied for the job, and I lost it. I lost it to Charlie Lovett. A month later, somebody else came up, and they appointed me. So that's how I got on the board. And I think that's a reasonable approach, to allow the selectman to appoint until the next election. If that person wants to stay on, then he runs for election just like everybody else.
He or
Okay.
she.
He or she. Gender
Right, I'm
specific,
trying to
right.
help you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. Yeah. Those are the only changes that I am recommending. There is one change that is not, we are not recommending, and that is 5 to carry. Let's call it what it is, 5 to carry. The wording of the document says that the majority of voters, which in this case is 8, the majority is 5. It takes 5 to carry a motion or deny a motion. That has nothing to do with who's in attendance. I want to make that absolutely clear. If we have a quorum of 5 people, then a majority vote would be 3. The motion would not carry because our document says a majority of voters. I happen to believe that's correct. I think Mr. Walker is going to make a presentation on why it's not correct. And then we'll go from there. So, Brian, I've had my piece. Would you like to step in?
Maybe I can just start by trying to understand, Marshall, why you think that's a better option than a simple quorum present.
I think for 2 reasons. One, we need to have as many either positive or negative votes on an issue as possible, so that I wouldn't want $1 million or a $2 million bond being passed by 3 people. Okay. To me, that puts us in a dangerous position. I understand that the select board is, they're a simple majority. A lot of times they're running 4 on that board, so, it's got to be 3. So, but I think we need to have as many hands in the pot as possible. Number 2, I've been involved in several situations, and I haven't seen it happen here, but I've seen it happen in Wyndham, where you get strategic absences. People don't show up because then they won't have to vote. Okay. And the third thing is, there are Robert's Rules 848 allows us to set a rule, and as long as it's reasonable and as long as we follow it, then that's the rule. And I'm going to cite you 2 examples. One, it takes 2/3 majority to override a veto. That's an exception to the simple majority rule.
Mhm.
The other one, the government shutdown, if you were watching that process happen, they couldn't get 60 votes. In the U.S. Senate, there are 100 voters. It takes 60 for an appropriations bill. And that's another example of where that rule applies. Okay? And I think as a voting committee dealing with the town of Raymond finances and all its millions, we have the responsibility to make sure that as many people are in agreement as possible. Okay?
So, the 2 main reasons why I have a concern with the 5 to carry.
Yep. Well, in this case, if we go to 7, it'll be 4 to carry, but I'm
4 to
just
carry,
using that phrase to define our issue.
Okay, yeah, let me just talk in terms of 4 to carry then.
Yeah, it'd be 4 to carry.
I think there's a real value in having consistency across various, especially elected organizations within the town of Raymond. I don't think that having different rules for different organizations makes a lot of sense in terms of the general public understanding, and I don't believe that the points that you've made are sufficient enough to kind of override that concern. The bylaws of the Board of Selectmen are pretty simple. A quorum is a majority of the board, and any action by the board should require the affirmative vote of a majority of the attending membership of not less than 3 members. So that language, to me, if we were to just pull that and bring it over onto ours, adjusted for a 7 group versus 5, makes a lot of sense to me, because then we're all working with the same rules.
Okay.
That's kind of point number 1.
Okay.
The second one, and your point's well taken about the 2/3 majority and things like that, but I do believe that the democratic principle of majority rules is a pretty important one. If you take this year with our 8 members, and it will take 5 to carry this
Right.
year.
Right.
To me, it's possible that there could be a situation with 5 people in attendance, for whatever reason, 3 can't make it, and I'm making this extreme.
No, that's what I'm trying to deal with
And
here
we-
is extremes.
And we have a 4 to 1 in favor, it would not carry. And that, to me, is so overwhelmingly being in favor of it, that you actually have given a single person the ability to essentially veto.
Mhm.
And I think that's horribly dangerous.
Mhm.
If people are, and now to address your concerns, if people are doing strategic absences, then I think we have a different issue. And to try to deal with it in the way that the law is, our ordinance is written, is the incorrect way of doing it. I think I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
One other comment was that if we decide, no, let me just leave it at that. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, Bob.
I'm assuming that majority number would change in the event that we had a member recuse themselves from voting?
That's
No,
another issue.
It doesn't. Not the way it's written.
If we had a simple majority and somebody recuses, yes, we would not be able to.
'Cause I mean, there were at least 4 articles last year that I had to recuse
Well,
myself
there's
from.
a couple that I recuse, and there's a couple that other people should recuse from, yeah. So that eliminates a voter right there, which is a problem.
Yeah.
It's a problem, okay.
We live in a small town, and there's a lot of volunteerism that's going on, and I'm also a big believer that I want to do as little as possible to dissuade people from not serving in both elected and appointed roles, and I'm really
Okay.
concerned about that as well.
I'm gonna come back on you on 2 issues, that one being number 1.
Yeah.
If you wanna be on this board, then you ran for election, and you should do as best you can to come to the meetings, okay? And that's
Couldn't
fine.
agree with you more.
As far as consistency between the select board and us and the planning board or whatever, I agree with it to a point. And the point stops where the dollar starts. If we're dealing with money, which we are, then we need to have as many people agree with it as possible. And those are my 2 positions, okay? Dana, sir?
If I'm just going back to, when you recuse yourself, and this is my opinion,
Yep.
if there's any monetary, money involved in your decision-making, then I really truly believe that you shouldn't be on this committee or the select board.
Well, here's,
If there's conflicts of interest where you have people, that's, they're making money, there's or either that or their spouse is making money, then, that should be in the ordinance, That's all I'm saying.
but it kind of is in the ordinance. by-
Well,
by conflict of
we got
interest.
several members on both boards
Right.
that have conflicts of interest, and in my opinion, that's not right.
But it goes back to Brian's comment about this is a
It's a
small
small
town.
place, yeah.
And it's a small town, but it still doesn't have to be corrupt.
Well, it's not corrupt.
Doesn't
I
make
haven't-
I
People
think-
recognize that.
I think, Dana, if you're calling it corrupt, I think if the person refuses himself on a particular vote, it alleviates any type of problem like that.
Yeah, but then at the end of the meeting, Barry, they vote. At the end of the budget season, I've watched meetings and I've seen people recuse themselves, and at the end of the budget process, they all do this.
Well, that's right, because they're a citizen of the town of Raymond. And
Exactly.
they have the right, the same right that you and I have.
Exactly. But, to have people on the board that have, relatives that work for the town, I have a problem with that. I've refused work when I was on the selectmen board because it didn't seem right to me to do. There were other electricians, Bennett, and,
Yep.
and I just didn't feel that it was the right thing for me to do.
And
Even during the ice storm, I helped the school out, and I didn't charge them because I couldn't do it, because I have, those were my ways of thinking of it, so.
Okay.
That's the only comment I have, thank you.
That's a good one, Dana. Thank you very much. It's a good one. We beat it up? Everybody agree with the changes that we're going to make, with the exception of the wording of the voting? Eliminating the school, eliminating, cutting back to 7. We're all okay with all that stuff, so. What I'd like you to do, Brian, if you wouldn't mind, is send me via email your suggested change to that.
Sure.
And
I'll have it to you tomorrow. Should I send it just to you and then you'll distribute, or which way
it's a
would you like
wide
to do it?
open committee.
Okay. No, I just
Okay.
wanted to make I want to honor your
And
chairman.
that's why I, sent out the email on the 4th saying, hey, it's going to town, it's going to selectmen, and this is your chance, okay? So, if you would do that, and if anybody else wants to pipe in with an opinion, please, let me do that. And then what my intent would be, keeping the time frame in mind, is that our next meeting will be February 27th, which will be what I call the cost center presentations, okay? February 27th.
Are we gonna have a budget by then?
We should,
All right,
because it's due to town by the 13th,
all right.
okay?
Thank you.
Same time, Marshall?
6:30, 6:30 here. I am now reserving the right to shuffle the order of presentations. I'm not sure who's gonna go up first, I'll see what happens, so don't take how it's written as verbatim. And my intent would to be to, once those presentations are done, excuse everybody that's non-voting in the budget finance, and we'll vote on this particular issue. Is that okay with everybody?
Yes.
It's an up or down, majority or what's existing, because I'm not changing existing. You're recommending a change, which is fine, okay? Is that fair with everybody?
So quick question,
Yes.
just on the voting.
Yeah,
I'm just
I
thinking
don't
about-
think we vote at this meeting, do we?
We're gonna, when we have this workshop, or with the presentations, I'm gonna close that part of the meeting, open up, it's still my meeting.
Mhm.
I'm gonna close that part, and then we'll open it up to vote on this issue.
So will we be voting for your proposed?
My proposal is to do nothing with that paragraph, so you're the one making the change. You're the one recommending the
So
change. So you would
I'm-
make the motion,
I will make the motion, and therefore I have to get 5 votes to do that?
right, and you can't pay them.
But,
Dana
but
said you
hold on
can't
a
pay
second.
'em.
How is, you are also making a change to the ordinance. How is that you don't need to get 5 votes? What?
Well, I can get,
I'd like
We'll
you to
have-
make the motion for that, and then if it's not voted down, I can then make my motion
you
as
would
an
make
alternative.
You would make it as an addendum to the,
Right.
Yeah.
Can we do it that way?
sure.
Okay, so you'll need to get the 5 votes, and then if it doesn't go through, then I get a chance at it. You see what I'm saying?
Fine,
Okay.
fine. Yeah, whatever way you want to do it, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if we can't get either one, then what happens? We stay where it's at?
Then we do nothing, and we let the ordinance stand as it is.
Well, that's no good either.
No, it's
Okay.
not.
No,
It's not.
it's not.
Well, we'll try
It
to
needs to
come
be
to
changed.
No, absolutely. I agree.
I think this will help prove that, no, I won't go there.
Okay. February 27th, we'll bring it up. Yes, sir, Bob.
When the budget is issued, can I request that Mike is in paper form instead of a electronic form?
Sure.
Dana and Deb and Bob.
Dana and Dad and Bob.
If I can, I'll come by and get a paper copy.
I can
Yeah.
come get it. yeah.
I can as well.
I just like writing on paper
So
still.
would everyone like a paper copy?
Please.
Are you on an HP printer?
Hmm?
The instant ink crap? Sorry, I'm sorry.
What, should it be hole punched?
No, you have to pay, you have to
Sure.
buy a printer, then you have
That'd
to
be
pay.
great.
That would even be better.
3-hole punch would be awesome.
It used to be much more dramatic in
Thank you,
other
Sue.
communities I've been in. We delivered it as soon as it was done by police.
Wow,
Police would come to your door, give you the book. No drama here.
Book it.
wow.
Why don't you run 8 copies, and we'll all take the responsibility ourselves to come pick them up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let us know when.
Once the agenda's set and we have the
Perfect.
Have the
That's great.
pieces.
Okay.
Just email us.
And
Yeah.
one more thing.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, Bob.
So if you could check to see whose terms are up this springtime.
That's on the website.
I can look right now.
Why don't you go through it then?
I'm 2019, Barry's 2019, Dana's 2020. Ryan, you might be.
I think I'm due. I can't believe it.
Marshall, you're 2020, right? Didn't you
Work
just
if
get-
my mouse will
Yeah, I
work.
just was reading it,
Yeah.
yeah.
Budget
I don't know what I
finance. in 2018 is Deb DeShane, Brian Richards, and Robert Goslin.
I can't believe it's been 3 years. You sure you got that right?
I'm pretty sure.
Time flies when you're having fun.
It does.
Thank you.
And then, who's
And
on
when our-
2020,
when
Dan
our
or I?
nomination papers?
2020
Yeah,
is
Marshall, Dana in the open spot.
Do you know when
Marshall.
nomination papers are?
Dana in the open position, yes.
I'm gonna guess here, but I believe nomination papers are March 20th.
No, they are earlier because it's closer to the beginning of March because the state statute changed in Title 30A to be a 60-day lead time instead of
Instead of 45.
45,
Okay,
to give me more time to actually print the ballots for you.
Yep.
That's,
okay. Anything else? Yes, sir.
I just want to say thank you very much for the way you allowed my comments, and I appreciate your chairmanship.
Yeah.
Trying to
Yeah.
do the best for the town of Raymond.
Thank you, Marshall.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you, Dana. Anything else? Motion to adjourn?
Adjourn.
Second.
Second. Have a happy day.